This is the download recap from Sounds Profitable, the most important news from this week and why it matters to people in the business of podcasting. I'm Gavin Gaddis. The download recap is brought to you by Podscribe. You can find out more at podscribe.com. Now, let's get into this week's news. Podcast Movement opens public voting for 2026 sessions. Podcast Movement 2026, taking place September 17th and 18th at Terminal 5 in New York City, has opened public voting on speaker session submissions through July 21st. With nearly 800 submissions from more than 500 speakers, the initiative marks the first time the conference has made its agenda-building process transparent. 50% of the schedule will be determined by community vote at podcastmovement.fighter.io, where anyone can vote once per session. The remaining 50% will be selected by an inaugural committee working from a published evaluation rubric. Podcast Movement President Brian Barletta sums up the new process with the following quote, "Our industry thrives when the best ideas, not the biggest budgets, get the spotlight," end quote. What the screen adds to ads. This Wednesday, writing for Sounds Profitable, Tom Webster published the Podcast Atlas Part 2, What the Screen Adds, cracking the video territory of the map with 5 findings about how video podcasts work as an ad environment. Video shortens the path to purchase. 15% of video primes, people who primarily consume video content, report buying immediately after seeing an ad versus 10% for audio podcasters, and 67% took at least one action versus 63% for audio podcasting. It does that without giving up any trust, rating level with or slightly above audio with every trust dimension measured, and it commands the most dedicated attention of any format in the study at 81% fully or mostly attentive. Video podcast ads also beat YouTube ads on 5 of 6 attributes among each format's most engaged users, winning biggest on feeling non-disruptive. A quote from the article, quote, "The belief audio earns in its screen-free hours is the same belief video puts to work when the screen is on. The two are worth buying as one system, each one doing the job the other can't," end quote. The clear sign the two formats are doors into the same relationship. 73% of listeners say they would follow a host they like from audio into video. There's a link in today's newsletter to download the Podcast Atlas. Apple Podcast Video Push shows early promise. Bloomberg's Soundbite newsletter from Ashley Carmen checks in on Apple Podcast Video rollout 4 months after launch. Early numbers are encouraging but muddy. Transistor FM's opt-in waitlist exceeds 1,500 creators, and Acast has 180 opted-in shows that have seen roughly a 25% jump in Apple consumption since launch. Though, it's worth noting, current analytics cannot separate audio plays from video plays, making the gains hard to attribute. The feared video takeover of the charts has not happened yet, with only 10 shows on the US Top 200 currently offering video. A quote from Dan Meisner, co-founder of Bumper, quote, "The bumps the video-enabled shows have seen look very similar to any other promotion." He also, end quote. He also notes most of Bumper's clients are taking a wait-and-see approach because video ads workflow and monetization complexity without clear return. Where engagement went in Q2. Al & Company's Streamonomics newsletter from Hernan Lopez previews Q2 earnings season through engagement data across 9 platforms: Comcast, Meta, NBC Universal, Netflix, Paramount, Spotify, TikTok, Warner Brothers Discovery, and YouTube. And the attention is not where the profits are. Netflix's top 10 viewing hours fell roughly 4% year over year in the first half of 2026, with only 11 shows crossing 100 million viewing hours and just 2 passing 200 million, while Instagram grew engagement double digits, TikTok grew single high digits, and YouTube leads on both mobile and TV globally. A quote from Wells Fargo analyst Stephen Cahall, quote, "Netflix has the feel of a fallen angel. Its forward P/E is -2 standard deviations below the 2023 current average," end quote. Hernan Lopez expects Netflix and Spotify to raise guidance and projects Meta will outpace YouTube in revenue growth. These engagement trends set the reach and CPM math on YouTube and Spotify, the two biggest homes for video podcasting. Now it's time for quick hits. These are articles that didn't quite make it into the top story section today, but are still worth including in your weekend reading. First up, the BBC reports a record 502 million weekly global audience across BBC News, World Service, and BBC Studios content, which is up 11% year over year. Signal Hill Insight's 2026 benchmark report is here, aggregating brand lift data from 38,704 podcast listeners and viewers. AdsWiz extends its exclusive European sales agreements with SoundCloud, 14 markets, and Sonos, all of Europe, renewing audio advertising partnerships that began in 2021 and 2022. Febreze has a "Can't Wash This" campaign taking on soccer stink that is in the article, I promise, not just me being creative, with the first brand integration outside the studio for What Now with Trevor Noah, filmed in the New York Red Bulls boot room. And the Podglomerate's Joni Deutsch asked 5 AI tools to name the best new podcast of 2026 so far. City of Lights and Money Trauma were the only two every tool agreed on, and shows with mainstream media backing dominated the answers. That was the download recap brought to you by Sounds Profitable and Podscribe. I know I go through the stories fast, so reminder, there's a link in your show notes that'll take you to today's episode post on soundsprofitable.com, where you can check out every link and subscribe to get the newsletter version of this sent straight to your email inbox. I'm Gavin Gaddis. Our producers are myself, Brian Barletta, Molly DeMillier, and Tom Webster. And as always, special thanks to you for sticking with me as I brought you the top stories from this week in the business of podcasting. Robot.
Download complete.